What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. I want to start off with a story before I get into my broader point here. And my story is about a friend of mine in high school. When I was in high school, my parents told me that I needed to go out and get a job. As a kid, I was getting allowance for most of my life, and I never had a real job where I was an actual employee for anything. And my mother kept saying, "Get a job, get a job," and I just didn't know how to do it. Right? I didn't know. I was a good student. I didn't know, do people come to me? How do I get connected with people? And my friend Jen Hughes was over at my house, and my mother's told me, "Hey, you need to get a job, a part-time job." And Jen was like, "Peter, you don't have a part-time job?" And Jen had worked a lot, and I probably should have asked her, but she's like, let's go get you a job. And so it was kind of funny to me because I was like, all right, I know, Jen, you work hard, but I'm a smart guy. I know what I'm doing. I'm sure I can figure out how to get a job. And she walked me outside. We jumped into her Ford Taurus, and she said, "What kind of job do you want?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm kind of a geek. I could sell office supplies or something." So perfect. She drove down the street about half a mile to a small office supply store, and at the time it was called Macaulay's, and I don't think it's around anymore, unfortunately, but it was a great little shop. And we drove into the parking lot, and she grabbed my hand, and we walked in. And the funny thing to me is, this is probably not how I would recommend trying to get a job, but she went up to the front counter and asked, "Hey, do you have any job applications?" And the lady there said, "Yes, we do." And she handed Jen one, and Jen handed it to me, and I proceeded to fill it out. And in fact, I ended up getting that job about 24 hours later. And one of the things that I learned about this is that we all, I think, have a fear of trying something for the first time, whether it's your first date or your first kiss or buying your first car or home or working your first day on the job. Or for me, it was the fear of getting a job for the first time, right? The first for us, for a lot of things, are very stressful situations. And then once we get past that, once we've broken through, we never have that same type of fear. We never have that same type of anxiety again, right? But the first time, it takes a lot of activation energy to get beyond, right? And it's oftentimes this irrational fear. And I think it's this irrational fear combined with the lack of information on how to do it, right? Once you do something for the first time, now you've broken out through that fear, and then you also have the information, right? You see what the road is to do it. And so Jen had found a job. I mean, she had worked a lot. She had actually, fortunately, had to have a part-time job much earlier than I did. So she had gone through this process. She knew what she needed to do that. And so it was very simple for her to see the path that I needed to take. And so I'm eternally grateful for her doing that. And I actually worked at Macaulay's for 2 years as a part-time job in high school, and it was a great place. And I eventually got my friend Corey to work there, and it was awesome. And that's interestingly enough, the first time I discovered a side hustle. In fact, again, this has nothing to do with my thought for today, but the first time I discovered a side hustle was when people would come in and buy office furniture, and office furniture came in boxes, kind of like IKEA does now, but this is pre-IKEA days. And so most people would get this box and they say, "Why isn't the desk set up?" And my boss would tell them, "Oh, the desk doesn't come set up. You have to do that." And most people didn't want to set up their desk, so he would charge them $20 to set it up for him. He would give me that $20 in cash, and I would set it up in the back of the shop there, and people would then pull up to the back and put it in their car or their truck and drive away with a fully assembled piece of office furniture. So it was kind of off the books, but the customers were getting something that they wanted. I was getting a little extra money, and my boss was having happy customers and kind of young, cheap labor. And so I did a lot of firsts in that job, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm grateful for it. One of the things that I would say here is that the fear of trying these things the first time is the fear that our clients are going to have. Now, as a coach and as someone who is probably successful in your own finances, you've gone through a lot. Maybe you've bought cars, homes, you've gone on vacation, you've flown. There are a lot of people who haven't saved their first dollar, who have never flown on an airplane, who have never tried to get a credit card, who have never opened a bank account, right? There are people like that. There are also people who have never made their first big purchase, or had a joint bank account together, or opened a brokerage account, or bought a stock or a mutual fund, or any of these things. There are limitless things that I could say that people haven't done for the first time, especially in finance. And what that is a moment where the confluence of the fear of doing it for the first time and not having enough information to know what the path is going to hold them back. And yet we chalk it up to laziness sometimes, procrastination, behavioral problems, and one of the things that I want to say is that, how do we help our clients get through that? because what we want to do is continue to expand the boundaries of where they're comfortable, right? We kind of talk about widening the circle of comfort. And so what I want to say here is that don't underestimate being the Jen Hughes for these people. One of the things that I will do is just take the time in our coaching sessions sometimes to work through what we're trying to do with them, because I want to show them how to do it. What I hate sometimes is if people haven't done a budget before or tracked their spending before, to say, hey, go do this, come back to me with the results, because they say, hey, I don't know how to do it. But they're willing to spend an hour, they're willing to pay you that time. And so it can be very easy to just go through it. And even if you're going through some spending documentation, right? What's your cell phone bill like? What's your grocery bill like? Sometimes by the third line, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. I'll finish up this. I'll get the rest of it out, right? Or if they're trying to do the debt snowball, you might have to spend the time explaining how that works, right? Explaining how you roll that over, explaining how we're going to free up money, whatever it might be. Or if you're going to say, hey, you should buy a mutual fund, you should set up your 401k. A lot of times I've said, hey, do you have access to your 401k portal here? If you haven't set it up, can you log in right now and we can take a look and say, okay, here it is, open new account. That's where you want to go. Like, people just sometimes need that handheld the first time, right? And so what I would say is be very open to doing it. I think a lot of coaches, the ones that I see, think, well, that's so mechanical. It's so menial, right? I don't want them to pay me to do that kind of stuff. I want them to learn on their own. I'm not doing them any good if I don't force them to go do it on their own. Or, I'm supposed to be a thought leader. I'm supposed to be a strategist in the session, not someone who's kind of walking through the minutia of it. And I think both of those can be detrimental to our clients, because yes, we can certainly bring in great ideas, we can certainly help them see beyond the horizon sometimes, but in many cases all they need is that hand holding them to take that first next step. And so I do that a lot. I do it often for people depending on where they are in their financial journey, for people that are younger, for people that are new to their career paths, right? They don't understand health savings accounts, they don't understand deductibles and life insurance and the disability insurance that they were offered, right? So sometimes you just need to dive in the weeds and take really small steps, but just help them, guide them, lead them through some of those things. Because hopefully, if you can think back to when you did it and how you did it, maybe you had to read a bunch of stuff. Maybe it was just another coworker saying, oh, it's really easy, let's just do it this way, right? So let's not underestimate the value of people grabbing a hand and leading people forward through the darkness sometimes. So that's my thought there. The fear of trying something first and the lack of knowledge on how to do it can be really crippling for some people. So, if you can take away both of those pieces and help them break through, I think that's going to be a huge value to them. So that's my thought for today. See you later.